now, Tony? Everything go?
It's not working for the recording, our live. And if we can't get it, that's okay.
Okay, we'll give it another moment.
Oh, I heard it.
Good.
Okay, we're back online. Thank you, Tony. This morning, as I said, I'm going to be speaking on consciousness. If you believe that consciousness is locked up somewhere inside your skull and it is powerless to escape, if you feel your consciousness ends at the boundaries of your body, then you will sell yourself short. And that comes from Seth Speaks. Seth was an entity that came through Jane Roberts. So I wondered, well, okay, what is consciousness? What is it? So I asked Google, little God, the state of being awake and aware of one's surroundings. So I went to Webster's College Dictionary, which I have, and it had under conscious implies sensing or feeling certain facts, truths, conditions, etc. So consciousness is much more than just being aware of your surroundings. It's being aware of what's going on within yourself as well. And consciousness, as we'll go on to find out, has many different layers. Right now, Earth is going through what's known as the Great Shift. And what is that great shift? It's a raising up of consciousness. It is a rising of awareness. It's a rising of awareness of who we are and what the truth of this world really is. And everything in this world is raising in consciousness, including the planet herself, his self, itself. There are several things it might be wise to contemplate about this shift in consciousness. Number one, no one is locked in a box from which there is no escape. We may think that our life is this little box, that we're confined, that we cannot go beyond it. But that isn't truth. Number two, it is best not to rely totally on one's physical senses. They can give you false sense of reality, which is human nature, to accept everything that we see, hear, think, feel. But there's more to it than that. There are other states of consciousness in which one can be wiser and more creative, more knowledgeable, such as in the dream state or a psychic state. I might mention that I came across a really good YouTube video that I'm going to show on August 19th, Wednesday night, that's on consciousness. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that, because it's really good. Each human being has been given an awesome gift, being able to create physical forms by projecting their thoughts into the outer world. Our thoughts are things with breath and wings, is a poem. They fly to the farthest corners of the earth. What we think impacts our world. It's what is, you take energy, God energy, and you bring it into thought, and thought creates form. That's how it works. That's how powerful our thoughts are. We create this world that we experience through our thought, through our actions. And most of all, what's behind all of that? Belief. What do we believe? Because that impacts how all of that works. However, this gift comes with responsibility. to recognize that they create their own physical reality. And as a global society, humans as a whole create everything they experience in the outer environment as well. So when we come together in consciousness, we have the ability to create what's out here. And we have a choice. Do we want it to stay like it is? Or do we want to change it? Until we realize this truth, no one will admit they are responsible for reality they experience in the world. Yeah, if we didn't create this, somebody else did it, right? Not if we're all one mind. For the most part, humans remain ego-bound, not recognizing that how one views their reality is based on how they perceive it to be. Consciousness is a way of perceiving the various dimensions of reality. Consciousness, as you know it, is highly specialized. This consciousness that we know right here is focusing on only a small portion of the vastness of consciousness that exists. Earth is just one small portion of all the consciousness that exists. Wow. When we have the ability to fathom that, to go deeper in that, what can we learn? This is part of what Lynn is all about with her psychic class, because that helps you open up to other possibilities, other levels of consciousness. Because every one of our sight, hearing, taste, feeling, all of these senses have more to them than we recognize, that we utilize. And I'll talk a little more about that. There exists a physical level of perception to each of our human senses, by which we are able to obtain a greater level of consciousness and awareness of these other dimensions. And as I'll go a little further about that, that actually lies dormant on our DNA in us. We all have these abilities, these psychic abilities, these abilities to be far more than we believe. Why? We're multi-dimensional beings. We are co-creators with that energy we call God. You develop the consciousness of yourself as one with the indwelling God creator within you through practices that help you achieve the alignment, like those found in a book that I've read called Physical Development of Beginners by William W. Hewitt. He gives a number of exercises for developing the higher perspective of psychic nature of each of the human physical senses, which can help one increase their awareness and expand their consciousness. So we have exercises that we can do. We just have to get off our lazy behinds and do it, right? To begin, here is an example he gives. One would stare at an object with the eyes slightly unfocused and allow yourself, with non-judgment, to take in more. What else is there? This is an exercise that I've done before in a class where we stared into a candle flame and then what else can you see? In the Course in Miracles, it starts out with the first lesson of daily lessons to look at the objects around you and say to yourself, this chair that I see, I'm not really seeing it as it is. I'm not really seeing whatever as it is. Because, in truth, what has science found? Everything is made out of what? Particles, waves of energy, light. In this case, one will begin to perhaps see the aura around an object being viewed. Or, if in nature, they may perceive the energy beings, the elemental kingdom, the fairies, the gnomes, the dwarfs. There are people that do this, that see this. I find it easy to see human auras when I'm in a movie theater where my vision is dimmed down. Have you ever stared at a tree or a flower, or whether with the intent, again, intent is important, that you want to see their energy? Pretty soon you'll see light emanating. It emanates from us, it emanates from everything. The same can be done by focusing in more thoroughly on each of the senses. Another example might be to listen to an orchestra piece of music and see if you can determine the different instruments being used. I've often done that. I started doing this as a kid. We used to have people come to our school symphonies and listen to the symphony and try to know what those sounds were coming from. I didn't know all the instruments back then that I do today. But isn't it interesting that we can listen to music today that's created on a computer that has a totally different sound than some of our instruments that we are familiar with? So we're being exposed to new concepts, new ideas, new sounds, and new sights. And supposedly, when we go into the future, we're going to even experience more colors than we have today. I have a grandson who has clairsentience type thing. He can sense things. When he listens to music, he sees colors. There are people that actually have these other abilities that we too can develop. A formula that Hewitt gives for having success in achieving the development of your latent psychic abilities is to desire, to dream, to have faith, commitment, action equals success. So desire plus dream plus faith plus commitment plus action plus success equals the success. Yes. We have to want it. We have to want to be more than what we believe we are. Reverend Jay used to so many times from this pulpit say, you need to be more. You need to be more. Yes. We are designed by our Creator to be capable of altered states of consciousness, which we can use for our own benefit and the benefit of others. How? We can do that. How? Once we have reached this place, when we've reached the place of this, we no longer hate, we no longer fear or love so-called evil powers. The evil powers of the world, they are able to respond without fear. We are able to no longer respond with fear to those powers. We're no longer in fear of epidemics, storms, depression, diseases of one nature or another, and we can prove this by our state of consciousness. A few weeks ago, I talked about power. We have the power. Remember the song, We Have the Power, We Have the Power? We do. We have that power. I can remember learning this prayer from Ramtha, who is a entity that came through J.C. Knight. Unto the Lord God of my being, unto the Lord of hosts, come I this hour, naked, prepared to receive my Christ, indeed my knowingness, indeed my power, into full alignment, come forth to be, come forth to become all that I am, for that which you be I forever and ever. Yeah, we have that power. We have the power. Never were we ever to be beyond that source of power. But that's what happened in this world. We lost our consciousness. We let it go down to the really bottom of the barrel, so to speak. Now we're climbing back up out of that. We're climbing higher and higher in consciousness. That's what this shift is about. This is a fantastic thing. Every 26,000 years, our world our galaxy, our solar system, everything comes into the closest center of our universe. And it's then that it's been noted that there's been a shift in consciousness. But the one we're going through now is a bigger shift than ever been before, because we are shifting with the whole of this planet, with everything. We are shifting with the whole of the universe. What are we shifting out of? What consciousness? Duality consciousness. We're no longer going to be seeing dark, light, off, on. We're going to be changing our whole perspective to a more powerful understanding of what we truly are. Going back to Hewitt, he states, quite spontaneously, a person can enter these altered states of consciousness. Everyone does this without necessarily being aware they have changed their conscious state on a daily basis. We do it. We just, you've been off daydreaming someplace and suddenly you become aware that you're back here in the classroom and not outside fishing at the fishing hole or whatever. That's part of it. I found myself doing that this morning. Dick had put on the TV set. He likes to watch these cat videos. They're funny little creatures. And I was watching that. It's very relaxing. Suddenly, I was waking up from being gone. Where? I don't know. That's how we change states of consciousness. But we can learn to be more aware of them. All people have psychic abilities, although they have become dormant for most of the present-day world's population. It is possible with the new energy levels that are present now on Earth that people may find themselves suddenly developing psychic powers and abilities, or even having experiences of stepping into another dimension, if just momentarily. These experiences will perhaps be disconcerting to one in the beginning, but will be a new normal after a period of adjustment, says Hewitt. Moving to another reference, a message given for day 126 in the Kabbalah 365-day book. It's based on Jewish mysticism. It reads, in the 2nd century, Rabbi Yoshi taught, the sacred wellspring, meaning God, says to us, open for me as wide as the eye of the needle, and I, in turn, shall open your passageway so wide that the entire caravans of tents and wagons can pass through it with the greatest of ease. I would interpret this to mean that when a person gives an intent to Spirit in the smallest of ways, Spirit opens the way for that person to receive in far abundant way than they can possibly believe. Jesus used that. He told this man who had great riches and so forth, who wanted to access the power that Jesus had. It's like pulling a camel through the eye of a needle. Yeah. It can be tough, but we can do it because he also said, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. Could it be this easy to ask to open up one's dormant psychic abilities, perhaps? But as a popular saying goes, God helps those who help themselves. This would take us back to Hewitt's formula for achieving success. Desire plus dream plus faith plus commitment plus action equals success. Humans are designed by their Creator to be capable of altered states of consciousness, which can be used for their benefit. It is up to them to develop them and utilize them in ways that not only benefit their self, but this world. I believe that when Jesus spoke of preparing the many rooms in his Father's house for us, he had an understanding of the many dimensions of consciousness that exist beyond our 3D world, and that in a future time we would be able to access them as well. I think perhaps that time is where humanity is today, that we are standing right on the cusp of being able to step off into this higher state of consciousness. Some are already there, others of us are still working. I'm going to move now to Dolores Cannon. Dolores Cannon spoke of a time coming in the future when you might walk down a sidewalk and fall through a hole and find yourself in a whole different universe. Chiron, who is another entity, had this to say. He said that you might be walking to a curb on a street one day and go to step off of that curb and find yourself in a totally different street. Those could certainly be disconcerting things that could happen. One of the things that's happening sometimes now is, have you had something disappear? Just plain disappear? You can't find it anywhere in your house at all? Yeah, it went to another dimension, maybe temporarily, but it left. But as Reverend Don used to say, energy only transforms, it never leaves. And so you look hard enough for it, you want hard enough for it, you put your thoughts out there hard enough, it's going to return. Because of the shifting energies now occurring, it is possible to find yourself having some unusual experiences. You might just have some glimpses of these, like these spooks that Reverend Jay used to talk about. He said they'd come and knock on his door at 3 o'clock in the morning. He could see them, and some people can. People that are of spirit nature can transform enough sometimes that they can be seen by certain people. I've never seen anything quite like what he's describing as being as spooks. But when I lived in Alaska, one night I just absolutely couldn't fall asleep. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to read the newspaper from cover to cover, because we did newspapers back in those days. And I did. I read every single word. I was so tired by that time, I was ready to go to bed and sleep. So I went upstairs to go to sleep. And as I walked in the room, there beside my side of the bed stood a tall figure robed like a monk. The minute my consciousness went, what am I seeing? It disappeared. And I had a few other similar experiences like that in my life as well. What you see as a glimpse out of the corner of the eye, you want to immediately turn to, but I've read, don't do that. Ask, what is it that is there? What is it I am perceiving? Or who is it I am perceiving? And see if you get any information. You've heard us speak about these orbs of light. Reverend Madge has mentioned these orbs of light. Have any of you seen them? I certainly have. Sometimes they're blue colored or red colored. Sometimes they're just white. And I wondered what they were. I came across this explanation, that they are souls, that those are souls that are here, that are observing us. Some of them are getting ready to come into incarnation here on this world. Some of them may be from other planets that are taking information about us back to their planets. That's an interesting thought about them. Whatever they are, supposedly we are like that in truth. We are like a orb of light, like that little light that the song was speaking about. We are a point of light that enters this world, a point of light. We're here to broadcast that light to help this world become a place of light, of higher consciousness. Many are saying that we have entered the new world or the fourth or fifth dimension, and these are different states of consciousness. Remember, it is your higher good to leave your fears behind and trust in the wisdom of the universe to take you along its flow to reach the states of higher consciousness you desire, for they are your destiny. That's where we're going. We're going into this higher consciousness. That's what this shift is all about. Yes, there's a lot of chaos out there in the world as this shifting is taking. What happens when, a big wave crashes up against a rock, right? Chaos for a few minutes. Well, that's kind of what's happening in our world today. But it isn't going to be here forever. So don't be in fear. Fear lowers your ability to be in the higher state, that state of God consciousness, which is love. Love. As humanity awakens and faces these challenges that are coming with this shifting consciousness, let us remember to always reach out to our brothers and sisters in loving kindness and respect for their journey, wherever it may be taking them at the moment. Give them comfort when they get lost in desolation and fear. And when we hear of the natural disasters and the inhumanity that others are going through, from a higher state of consciousness, we can send love to them. And we do that. We do that through this Reiki practice that Lynn leads. We send it out into the world. But we can send our prayers and our hopes, our dreams out into the world, and we can uplift others. I've talked about Reverend Don before. Reverend Don is a minister at Woodland Chapel, and I spent a number of years at Woodland Chapel. And he would say, let us be a beneficial presence in this world. And let us stay, I say, and let us stay in the highest level of awareness and consciousness as we make this great shift. Let us stay there. Okay, I'd like to take us in for just a moment of meditation. I would like to begin just by reading you something from Michael Beckwith to let this come into your consciousness. He says, I consciously choose happiness as a way of life. I saturate my mind with joy, the joy that comes from within. I am now one with this joy. It informs my thoughts and emotions and acts through me. Joy upholds me, blesses me, inspires me. I am intoxicated with the joy of pure being. Take that in. Recognize this is true. We can be beings of joy. We can be beneficial presences in this world. We can raise our consciousness. We can allow that flow of God energy to move in, through, and as us into expression in this world. And through it all, we can create a new world, a higher world of consciousness. And so we let this be. And so it is. Amen. Okay, we now come to our time of offering. As we prepare for our offering to the home center, let's hold it in our hands and charge it up with the energy of alignment, generosity, and sacred intention. We know that we are a part of a greater circulation of good and that our gifts will multiply for the highest healing, growth, and service to us and our community. As the basket is coming around, Please fill it with your blessings, and we thank you for your generosity and for contributing to the support of our good works. And so it is. Yeah. We want to keep the center going. And so we are so grateful for your gifts. Get that. I have to find my agenda here. Where are we at? Okay. Next, I'm going to invite Lynn up, and she's going to give us a little inspirational story and a closing prayer. I'm going to do announcements.
Do you want to?
Yes.
Okay. I'll help you with the pin.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Reverend Connie. That was wonderful. I have a little story before our closing prayer. There was an old, tired dog, very tired looking, and it's wandering into a man's yard. And the man examines the dog and finds out that he's very well fed and looks like he's been loved. And he follows the man in the house and goes down the hall, jumps on the couch, gets pretty comfy, and falls asleep. So about an hour later, he wakes up and the man's going, "This is odd. This is very odd." But he lets him sleep, and he gets up and goes to the door and scratches and says, the man let him out. He wags his little tail and he heads on out the door. The next day it happened again, and the next day it happened again, and it continued happening. And he's going, "This is really weird." This is what comes in, takes a nap, doesn't need anything else, goes out the door on his way home. So the man decided to write a note on the collar because the dog is going somewhere. And so he writes this note: "Did you know that this dog is coming to my home almost every day, taking a nap and just leaving and going somewhere else?" So the next day, the dog comes back with another note pinned to him. "Yes, we know that he's coming there. This dog is in a home with 4 children, 4 wild children. The only rest this poor dog gets is when he comes to your house to take a nap. And I'm wondering if it's okay if I come with him next time." That was pretty good. Okay. Smart dog. If everybody would join me in our closing prayer. Spirit, this has been a good time, well spent, connecting with friends and with family, whether online or in person. Help us to continue this week with thinking happy and kind thoughts. Frequently, every second, think kindness. Remembering that thinking kind words reduces stress, boosts our moods, and helps us to focus. Think good thoughts about your friends and family, and also about yourself. Share that happiness with everyone you meet and wherever you go this week. And thank you, Spirit. So it is. This ends our broadcast. And from our hearts to yours, have a blessed week. Think kindness and know that we're sending kindness to you. Thank you.